Blog Talk Radio.
Prejudice. Wrote a song about it? Like to hear it? Here it goes. Free your mind.
Welcome to Off Limits with Donovan. I'm your host, Donovan.
Thanks, everybody, for joining me tonight for our discussion about racism in America. We're going to talk tonight about racism, obviously, in America and how it has affected the United States and how it affects, obviously, the minorities in this country as well as those who are not minorities. The call-in number tonight is 323-843-6160. So I encourage anyone who would like to discuss this topic with me to feel free to call in and discuss it with me. It is a really volatile issue, and I think a lot of people feel differently about racism depending on who you are, obviously. But well, first of all, we should ask the question: what is racism specifically? And I was looking it up, and it says it's defined as a belief or doctrine that inherent differences among the various human races determine cultural or individual achievement, usually involving the idea that one's own race is superior and has the right to rule others, or a policy system of government based upon fostering such a doctrine, such as discrimination or hatred or intolerance of another race or other races. So I think that to talk about racism in America, it's impossible not to start a discussion about racism in America, talking about the history of the United States and how we've had racial separatism for so long here, almost since the beginning of our country, or even before we were a country. And during the past 500 to 1,000 years, racism on the part of the Western world towards non-Westerners has sort of been it's been a far more significant impact on history than any other form of racism, in my opinion. The most obvious example of racism by the United States has been slavery, particularly the enslavement of Africans in the New World, for years and years ago, hundreds of years ago. So, when that occurred, when Africans were enslaved by the Western world and brought to America, it was accomplished because of racist beliefs that black Africans were less fully human than white Europeans and their descendants. So, from the very beginning, it was an instant where people were being portrayed as subhuman, and so it's no wonder that we have racism today. But it wasn't automatic because, originally when Africans were here in the United States, they weren't considered inferior. Like when Portuguese sailors first explored Africa in the 15th and 16th centuries, they came upon empires and cities as advanced as their own, and they considered Africans to be serious rivals of theirs. It's over time, though, as African civilizations failed to match the technological advances of Europe and other major powers and white European powers, they began to kind of forcibly remove the people, its inhabitants, to basically to work as slave laborers in new colonies across the Atlantic, such as the United States of America. So in the colonies, and so Africans came to be seen as sort of a deficient species or savages, and to an important extent, this view was necessary to justify the slave trade at a time when Western culture had begun to promote, individual rights and human equality. And the willingness of some Africans to sell other Africans to European slave traders also led to claims of, people being claims of savagery, and based on the false belief that people who were dark were all part of one society as opposed to many different nations. So one important feature of racism, especially towards blacks and immigrant groups, is a clear attitude regarding slaves and slavery. And Jews are usually seen by anti-Semites as subhuman, but also interestingly as superhuman. They always say that Jewish people are devilishly, they're like devilish or they're cunning or manipulative or skilled and powerful, and blacks are seen as racist as merely subhuman, more like beasts than men or people, or human beings. So, if the focus of anti-Semitism is evil, the focus of racism basically is inferiority. It's directed toward those who have sometimes been considered to lack even the ability to be evil. So, and so then in the second half of the 19th century, with Darwinism and things like that, the decline of Christian belief systems and more immigration coming in, immigrants were perceived by many white people as a threat to their cultural control. So the Caucasian people who were here in the United States already were feeling already that threatened by these new people coming in. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm just going to give you kind of a history lesson here first. But European and to a lesser degree American, scientists and philosophers came to the conclusion, a false conclusion, to say that that the white race was supreme to everyone else's. So, while the Nazis killed all the Jews, and that kind of discredited most of these scientific beliefs and efforts to elevate one race over another. There were some scientists and social scientists who have continued throughout, the last century to kind of argue that inborn shortcomings of certain races, especially blacks. And at the same time, some public figures, even in the black community, have kind of champion the supremacy of the black race and the inferiority of whites, using nearly the identical language of white racists. So, racism is not a black or white thing. Racism is spread through all races and all communities. It's not specific to one or the other. But of course, all of these things are based on the understanding of race being that race, what people may seem to be significant racial differences to some people, like skin color, hair, or facial shape, or, facial attributes or whatever, they're not of any scientific significance. I mean, genetic differences within a particular race is so minute, genetically, that people are 99.9% exactly the same. So anyway, that's just a little bit of a history lesson, the basis of race and where it's come from and that sort of thing. But I do think people should realize that when it comes to racism in America, that, we're going to talk first about the slavery and all that stuff. We're going to get to more about income and race and how that's kind of been an issue in the United States. We're going to talk about Middle Easterners and what the things that they're going through these days, kind of the new racism in a way here in the United States. It's not new to them, but it's kind of coming to the forefront because of 9/11. We're going to talk about KKK, Black Panthers, things like that, and we're also going to discuss interracial relationships and how that affects people. And also, I'm going to talk about my own experiences with racism as well, and how that has really affected me as a human being, as a man, as a person in the United States of America. So, first of all, we're talking about slavery and that sort of thing. And the thing about blacks in America is, we're going to talk about the black and African American race, whatever, first, because that is the most obvious example in the United States of racism. And, because of the United States history with racism, and with slavery, I should say, people today often see blacks as inferior because of what they were taught by their parents or by traditional beliefs in their own family, or what they see on television or whatever. So the reason for that, though, is because even though people themselves may not consider themselves to be racist, they may think, "Oh, I'm not a racist. I have black friends or whatever." If you're not willing to allow someone of a different race marry someone of a different race, then you're a racist because you're seeing one race as superior to another. So if you're not allowing someone who's Mexican, or Hispanic, I should say, Hispanic, to marry someone who's Caucasian because you think that Hispanics are inferior to the white race, then you're racist. If you don't want to hang out with black people or a Mexican person or a Spanish person or an Asian person or whatever, or a Middle Eastern person because you have feelings of what they may or may not be, you're a racist. If you have absolutely no friends of a different color than your own, that doesn't necessarily make you a racist. It may just be cultural, in my opinion. But it is most certainly an indicator that you may not be comfortable around people of a different race. So the question is, what is the thing about where did all this